Do you try to think positive to navigate yourself out of emotional states and mental states that don't particularly feel that well? Do you try to use affirmations to convince yourself that something else is true? Do you try to eliminate or rid yourself of limiting beliefs and negative self talk and your fears and your doubts by trying to convince yourself that none of those things are true and that what is true is something else, another reality where maybe you have more money, your business is much bigger, maybe you have the relationship of your dreams, maybe you look a certain way. Do you try really hard to use your conscious mind to create an alternative reality where everything that you want is present and everything that you don't want is absent? There's actually an entire field of psychology that's based on this. It's called CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And what this entails is using your mind, using your conscious mind to convince yourself to sort of see through the trickery of the mind. And I'm sure you've heard of affirmations. Millions, tens of millions of people do affirmations, trying to convince their mind, that I am wealthy, I am a millionaire, I'm, you know, rich, I'm I have my dream partner, I have my dream relationship, I have lost 10 pounds, or whatever the desired state might be. But all of this, although really well intentioned, is actually the cause of a lot of suffering and a lot of stress. And I'm going to show you why and how and what to do instead. What this is like is really using thinking to try and escape thinking, right? And Einstein said a problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. So you can think about it in this way, right? You're in a box, and that box is made up of your thinking. And you're trying to get outside the box, right? But the box is locked from the outside, and you're trying to escape the box from the inside. And no matter what you do, no matter what you tell yourself, it doesn't seem like you're able to escape that box. So, according to Einstein, and this has been proved by physics, quantum physics, that unless you ascend to a higher level of consciousness, you can't actually see beyond and see past the reality that your thoughts are creating. So it's really impossible to change your thoughts with your thoughts. And the reason for that is most of our suffering, most of our mental and emotional suffering, most of the reasons why we resist the present moment experience, most of the reasons why we experience stuff like anxiety and depression and fear and doubt and worry, the same things that create negative experiences like procrastination and perfectionism and so on and so forth, all of these things are actually caused by our thinking. Our mind, our natural mind, our pure mind, is actually a state of peace. It's like a blank canvas, right? And this blank canvas naturally is peaceful. It naturally is clear. It naturally is well and joyful and blissful. Its natural state is a state of love, which is a state of acceptance. And when we exist as this aware presence that is in the background of all our experience, we feel great. And what that feels like and looks like is us just being present in the now, in the present moment, and just being here fully, not trying to be elsewhere, not trying to be in a future where we have more money, or, being in the past where we're still playing over something that happened and carrying that imprint into the now. It's actually just being fully here in the now, fully being present, fully being aware, fully being conscious. Now, the only thing that can take you away from this natural state of awake, alert, peaceful presence is your thinking. The only way you can lose your true nature, which is joy and happiness and love and peace, is by going into your thinking, right? So when we try to trick ourselves into experiencing a certain feeling by telling ourselves over and over again using affirmations or positive thinking or cognitive reframes, and there's entire bodies of self work like NLP and all these things that are based on this idea that I can use my thoughts to change my thinking. And that's completely flawed, because all it does is it keeps us in this loop of thinking. And this loop of thinking is what is responsible for all our problems, right? If we just disconnect, if we disidentify from our thinking for a few minutes, the only thing that is left is just this pure presence, which is your true nature. Now, something else happens which magnifies this suffering, this pulling away from this natural state that we all are by default. And that is the reinforcing that something is wrong with the present moment, that there's something missing. That in order for us to feel at peace, in order for us to feel whole and complete and at rest, something needs to change. So literally, when we use affirmations, when we use positive thinking, when we use all these cognitive ways of tricking ourselves into believing that something else other than what is here right now is true, thinking that we can fool ourselves into a positive state, what we're actually doing is we're reinforcing the absence of what we've pinned, what we've made a dependency for our happiness. And so I was talking to one of my clients who is looking for a partner, and this person's, really is really deeply desirous of partnership. And this person has been looking for a partner for a while and really wants that connection, that really wants that relationship, really wants that intimacy. But all the time that this person longs for this partner, longs for this relationship, which all their happiness hinges on, that entire time this person's creating suffering. Because until that happens, the contract that is being made is that until it happens, I cannot be happy. I cannot be at peace. Because that is needed for me to feel complete. And so that is, Naval Ravikant says, desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until it actually takes place, right? And this contract appears in lots of places in lots of ways. Desire is not a problem by itself, but desire with the attachment causes a whole host of suffering. In fact, all of Buddhism is based on this idea that all our suffering comes from our attachment. And so if we can rid ourselves of this attachment, this need for something or someone to give us this, magical completion, when we can finally be peaceful, we can finally be free, we can finally be happy, what we're really saying to ourselves is, until then, I cannot be peaceful, I cannot be happy, I cannot feel whole. And that is just not true. It's just not true. So what happens is we play the waiting game, right? We live life conditionally, that in order for us to, feel a certain way, we must have all these things in our external environment. And what happens is that we're basically in this purgatory our entire life. We're always waiting for something to change on the outside for us to feel the way we want on the inside. You've seen people, they have careers where they put in, 40, 50 years, and they're waiting for retirement because that's when they'll finally relax. That's when they'll finally allow themselves to have, the life that they want to have. But that's really letting life just pass us by without actively experiencing what we're here to experience. And that denial of our true nature is really at the root of what creates all this suffering, right? So, what is the solution, right? You may be wondering, okay, if I can't do affirmations, or, if I shouldn't do affirmations, if I shouldn't do all this positive thinking stuff, if I shouldn't do all this NLP stuff and CBT stuff, then how do I feel good? And the answer is by falling out of our habitual thinking, by transcending the habitual thinking, is what allows us to make contact with our true nature. Because when we reinforce using thinking what we do not have, that's just a recipe for more suffering. But when we are at rest and we're so at peace with anything and everything and everyone that is here right now in the present moment, and life is just a series of present moments, then there is no need to go into thinking because there's nothing missing, right? Because when there's nothing missing, then I can truly be at peace, because now I don't have to strive and grasp and, work and try to manipulate my external reality, try to control everything, try to change everyone on the outside to get what I want, which is to feel good. Because the truth is, we can all feel good right now if we just allow ourselves to fall into this space of stillness. And that's the stillness of the mind. And in the stillness of the mind is where all the cool things are, right? That's where creativity comes from. That's where innovation comes from. That's where all these game-changing ideas come from. But that's also where there is this unshakable sense of peace and happiness and joy. So try this on for size, right? Really try on this practice of, rather than trying to change your experience with your thinking, just allow your experience to just be, right? And notice what arises. Notice what comes up to meet you in that moment when you just allow everything to be. Because the cool thing is, when you allow this to be, then you actually effortlessly attract all the things that you want. The money, the love, the, whatever you want with your body, whatever you want, in terms of the impact you want to make. Because from that peaceful state, you're just so much more productive. You can show up so much more powerfully. You come off, so much more magnetic and grounded and calm. And that's what the world really responds to. So my invitation to you is to let the thinking have a day off. Just give your thinking a day off and just allow yourself to walk around, to move around in your world from this state of peace, and just notice what happens. And try this on for size. So drop a comment, shoot me a message, let me know how this resonates for you. And I'm going to be hosting a workshop, a very experiential, practical workshop to take you through some of these practices, to give you an experiential taste of what living with this understanding could be like. And it's just profound freedom. It's freedom from our thinking, freedom from our limitations, freedom from our suffering. And when we exist in that state, it's just pure bliss, pure joy, pure happiness. So drop a comment. Let me know how this resonates for you. And don't forget, you are absolutely limitless. There is nothing that you can't do except for the thinking that tells you. And if you just stop and allow the thinking to just pass by, because that's what thoughts do. They come and they go. It's their nature. They're like clouds. If you just allow the thoughts that come in to come in and go without forcing them, without trying to change them, without trying to reframe them or make them positive, right? Then you will rest as the awareness of those thoughts. So much love. Remember that you are limitless, and I'll see you soon.